remember how proud I was the day I got that job. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror that morning, adjusting my clothes again and again, telling myself this was it. This was my break. A good company, a respected boss, a chance to finally prove I wasn't invisible. My boss shook my hand firmly during the interview. He smiled a lot, complimented my resume, said things like, "We reward hard work here, and if you're loyal, you'll go far." I believed every word. The first few months were actually good. I worked hard, yes, but I was learning. I stayed late because I wanted to, not because I was forced to. When my boss asked for help, I felt important, needed. Then slowly, things started to change. At first, it was small comments, easy to brush off. "Are you sure this is correct?" I expected better. I told myself he was just strict, that successful people were like that. Soon, strict turned into public. He'd point out my mistakes in meetings, loudly. "See, this is why I always double-check their work." Everyone would laugh awkwardly. I'd laugh too, even though my stomach twisted every time. The workload increased, but my title didn't. "I need this done tonight. This can't wait. You're young, you can handle it." I started staying back later than everyone else. I became the last light on the floor. I ate dinner from vending machines and told my family I was busy building my career. I didn't notice when appreciation quietly disappeared. One evening, I worked till almost midnight fixing a client proposal that had been completely wrong. I rewrote the strategy, redesigned the visuals, and even found data to support it. I was exhausted but proud. The next morning, in the client meeting, my boss presented it. He said, "I stayed up late refining this." I remember sitting there, frozen, my heart pounding in my ears. No one looked at me, no one asked, no one knew. After the meeting, I waited for him to acknowledge me. Maybe privately, maybe later. He never did. That's when I realized something was wrong, but not enough to leave, because leaving felt like failure, and I wasn't ready to accept that yet. After that first time he took credit, it didn't stop. It became a pattern. Every good idea I had somehow became his idea by the time it reached anyone important. If a project failed, though, it was suddenly mine. He had a way of rewriting reality. In meetings, he'd praise the team, except me, and when he did mention me, it was never good. This needed to be fixed after they handled it. I had to step in again. Each sentence felt like a small cut, not enough to bleed, just enough to hurt. Once a junior colleague came to me for help. I walked them through a solution, patiently, kindly. Later that week, my boss pulled me aside. "Don't act like you know more than you do," he said. I was confused. "They should be coming to me, not you. You're not in a position to teach anyone." That night, I stared at my laptop screen for an hour, unable to type. My confidence was slipping away, piece by piece. The overtime got worse. He'd message late at night with quick edits that turned into hours of work. If I didn't reply fast enough, he'd bring it up the next day. "Some of us are committed," he'd say, glancing straight at me. I stopped taking sick days. I stopped saying no. I stopped trusting my own judgment. Then came the words that stayed with me. We were reviewing a report I had spent weeks on. He skimmed it for less than a minute before throwing it back onto the desk. "This is stupid," he said. "Not the work. Me. You're overthinking things because you're not smart enough to simplify them." The room went quiet. I felt small, embarrassed, ashamed. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to speak. Instead, I nodded. After that day, I started triple-checking everything, then quadruple-checking. I worked slower, afraid of making mistakes, which only made him angrier. "Why are you so inefficient? Honestly, I don't know how you're still here." At home, I became distant. Friends said I seemed tired. Family said I looked thinner. I brushed it off, told them work was challenging. I didn't tell them I cried in the bathroom at work, or that I practiced conversations in my head where I finally stood up to him, conversations I never actually had. One afternoon, I overheard him talking to a client on the phone. "Yes, I built the entire framework myself," he said. "I don't really rely on my team for this kind of thinking." That framework was mine. Something broke inside me. Not loudly, but deeply. I realized he didn't just see me as disposable. He needed me to believe I was nothing without him. And for a terrifying moment, I did. By the time my alarm went off every morning, I already felt exhausted. I would lie there staring at the ceiling, my chest tight, replaying conversations from the day before, wondering what I'd done wrong, what I'd say if he attacked my work again, how I could make myself smaller so I wouldn't stand out. That's when I realized something was really wrong. I wasn't scared of failing anymore. I was scared of being seen. The office felt different too. Colder. People avoided eye contact when he raised his voice at me. Not because they agreed with him, but because they didn't want to be next. One day, we had a big internal presentation. Senior management, important people. The kind of meeting where careers quietly shift direction. I had worked on the proposal for weeks. Every slide, every metric, every scenario. He barely glanced at it before the meeting. As soon as the presentation started, he took control. Confident, charismatic. He spoke like the ideas had come to him effortlessly. Then came the questions. A senior executive pointed out a potential risk and asked how we planned to handle it. My boss froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. He turned to me and said, "Explain." No warning. No context. I started speaking, calmly at first, explaining the backup plan I had already built into the model. Halfway through my explanation, he cut me off. "No, that's not what I meant," he said sharply. He turned back to the room. "See what I mean? This is why I usually simplify things myself." I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to scream that it was what he meant, that the solution worked, that I knew what I was doing. But I stayed silent. After the meeting, he didn't even wait until we were alone. You embarrassed me, he snapped, right there in the hallway. I told him I was just answering the question he asked. He laughed. You don't think before you speak, he said. That's your problem. You're not built for high-level thinking. That night, I sat in my car in the parking lot long after everyone had left. I didn't turn the engine on. I just sat there, staring at the dashboard, feeling completely empty. And that's when a thought came to me. Quiet, dangerous. What if the problem isn't me? It felt almost wrong to think it, like betrayal, like arrogance. But once it appeared, I couldn't unsee things anymore. I started noticing how he spoke differently to people above him. Charming, respectful, almost humble. I noticed how he never insulted anyone who could challenge him. Only me. I realized he wasn't strong, he was insecure. And insecure people don't want capable employees. They want invisible ones. That night, I opened my laptop, not to work, but to research. How to start a firm, how to freelance quietly, what skills are actually valuable. I didn't plan to leave yet. I just wanted to know if I could. And for the first time in years, I felt a small spark of hope. I didn't quit right away. I learned to move carefully. At work, I became exactly what my boss expected. Quiet, obedient, unremarkable. I stopped sharing ideas in meetings. I nodded. I took notes. I let him believe he had finally broken me. Inside, though, something had changed. At night, after long days of being dismissed and talked over, I opened my laptop again. But this time, it wasn't for him. It was for me. I started freelancing under a different name. Small projects at first, nothing flashy, just enough to test myself. And something strange happened. Clients listened. They asked questions instead of interrupting. They thanked me. They paid me on time. Some even said things like, "You explain things really clearly." And I like how thoughtful your approach is. Each compliment felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else. But slowly, piece by piece, it stitched me back together. Meanwhile, at work, the pressure didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. He sensed something, I think. A shift he couldn't control. He started checking my work more aggressively, questioning every decision, making sarcastic comments again. "You've been quiet lately," he said once. "Try not to get lazy." I smiled and said nothing. What he didn't know was that 2 of his long-term clients had already reached out to me privately. They'd worked with me enough to know who was really doing the thinking. I never stole them. I just told them I was planning something of my own. They said, "Let us know when you're ready." I started saving aggressively. I cut back on everything. I lived smaller so I could leave bigger. One evening, he exploded at me over a minor formatting issue. "This is basic," he said loudly. "How do you still not get it?" For the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt detached. I realized his words had finally lost their power. The day I signed the paperwork for my firm, I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone. I just sat there staring at my name on the document, hands shaking. It felt unreal. The next morning, I handed in my resignation. He read it twice, frowning. "You're not serious," he said. "I am," I replied. He laughed. "You won't last 6 months without me." I looked at him and realized something else. This was the last time his opinion would ever matter. The first month after I left was terrifying. There was no office, no structure, no one telling me what to do. Just me, my laptop, and the fear that maybe, just maybe, he had been right all along. But then the work started coming in. 1 client became 2. 2 became 5. Projects overlapped. Deadlines stacked up. But this time, they were mine. I worked just as hard as I always had. But it felt different. Lighter. People listened when I spoke. They trusted me with decisions. They thanked me publicly and paid me what I was actually worth. When I made mistakes, they helped me fix them instead of humiliating me for them. 6 months in, I hired my first employee. I remember sitting across from them during the interview, promising myself I would never speak to them the way he spoke to me. Then the rumors reached me. A former coworker messaged late one night. "Things are bad here," they wrote. Clients were leaving, deadlines were slipping, meetings were chaotic. Turns out, without someone else doing the real thinking behind the scenes, his confidence had nothing to stand on. A year after I left, I saw his name in my inbox. The email was polite, careful, almost humble. He said he'd been following my work and wondered if I'd be open to exploring collaboration opportunities. I read it twice. I thought about the nights I cried in my car, the times he called me stupid, the way he stole my work and my confidence at the same time. Then I typed my reply. "Thank you for reaching out. I wish you the best, but I'm not interested." I didn't add anything else. I didn't need to. Later, I heard he'd been asking about me, about how I built my firm so quickly, about how I succeeded. The truth is simple. I didn't become successful because I left him. I became successful because I finally stopped believing him. I still work hard. I still doubt myself sometimes. But now, when I look in the mirror before work, I don't see someone small. I see someone who survived being underestimated and built something anyway. And that's something he'll never be able to take credit for. Success didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly, in moments so small I almost missed them. The first time I realized something had truly changed was when I woke up on a Monday and didn't feel sick to my stomach. No tight chest. No rehearsing conversations in my head. No fear of being humiliated before I even brushed my teeth. I worked hard, but I slept better. My firm grew slowly, intentionally. I chose clients carefully. I said no when something didn't feel right. That alone felt like a luxury I never knew existed. One afternoon, my employee knocked on my door, hesitant. They asked if they could push back a deadline because they weren't feeling well. I didn't even have to think. "Take the day," I said. "Your health matters." After they left, I just sat there for a moment, stunned by my own words. No one had ever said that to me. Months passed, then a year. My name started circulating in the same professional circles he once dominated. I got invited to panels, asked for advice. People introduced me as the founder instead of the assistant. And every time someone praised my work, a small voice in my head whispered, "You don't deserve this." That voice sounded a lot like him, but it got quieter over time. Then one day I ran into him. Not planned, not dramatic, just fate being oddly poetic. I was leaving a networking event, confident, relaxed, laughing with people who respected me. He was standing alone near the exit, phone in hand, shoulders slumped. He looked smaller, older. When our eyes met, recognition flashed across his face, followed by something I had never seen before: uncertainty. He smiled awkwardly and said my name like it was a question. "You've done well," he said. I thanked him politely. He hesitated. "You had potential." I almost laughed. Almost. But instead, I nodded and walked away, because the truth was this: he didn't deserve my anger anymore, and he didn't deserve my forgiveness either. The real victory wasn't that he struggled, it wasn't that I succeeded. It was that I no longer measured myself through his eyes. Sometimes late at night, I think about the version of me who stayed late, stayed silent, stayed small, because they thought endurance was loyalty. I wish I could sit beside them and say, "You're not weak for staying, but you're not wrong for leaving either. And one day you'll build something so solid that no one can take credit for it." Not ever.